Dexter Lawrence was selected to the first Pro Bowl of his career on Wednesday, and the way he's played this season, I don't know how you could keep him off of the All-Pro roster. There's a lot of great defensive linemen around the league, but none of them impact the game or their team in the way that Dexter Lawrence does. This season, he has 53 pressures and 8 sacks, both of which are career highs, and he has a 91.7 PFF grade, which leads all defensive linemen. But what makes Dexter Lawrence's pass rushing performance this season so impressive and historic is where that production's coming from. Since 2018, which is the first year that I have data for this, no defensive tackle has more than 24 pressures from a nose tackle alignment, but Dexter Lawrence has 34 in just 14 games. And there's a few reasons that you hardly ever see nose tackles with a ton of pass rushing production. First of all, they're the biggest players on the defensive line, so naturally they're not going to have that quickness and acceleration that you need to be an effective pass rusher. They also have more of a responsibility in run defense than an edge rusher or a 3 technique, so they're not usually firing off the snap and pinning their ears back at the start of the play. And if you're a second or two delayed getting into your pass rushing moves, you're not going to have much success. And then players on the inside also face more double teams just because of how the spacing is. If you're a nose tackle and you beat the center with a quick move, there's a good chance the guard's going to slide over to help, and so there's just a lot more traffic to deal with on the inside. Dexter Lawrence's best pass rushing move is the rip move. It starts out with a punch to the chest, and then he picks a side, jabs his inside arm underneath the blocker's armpit, and then rips through to the quarterback. Offensive linemen in situations like this where they've given up some penetration are taught to just flush the pass rusher as high as possible so that the quarterback can evade the pressure and then they have a clean pocket to step up into. But Dexter Lawrence has elite bend to finish off the pass rush. He can go from pushing the pocket vertically and then flatten his angle directly to the quarterback. Another really nice rip move here against Baltimore. Watch how he uses his outside arm to pin back the guard's right shoulder. That creates a ton of space between the blocker's arm and the side of his body, which Dexter Lawrence exploits with a rip move. And then again, the most impressive part of this rep is the bend to finish this off with a sack instead of just a pressure. Right here, Chicago's center gets a hand to the face mask. Lawrence uses his rip move to release contact, but then when the blocker replaces his punch with this outside hand, he seamlessly transitions into a second rip move and even pushes off the right guard to accelerate into the quarterback. This rep against Washington is a good example of a play where 90% of nose tackles aren't pressuring the quarterback. Dexter Lawrence has to delay his rush because he's being covered by the guard and the center, but then once the center leaves to pick up the stunt, Lawrence uproots the outside arm, which causes the guard to replace punch with his inside hand, and then he transitions into his rip move and gets a hit on Taylor Heineke. The other move Dexter Lawrence uses a lot to finish off his pass rush is the swim move. This is most effective when he can get the offensive lineman to lean forward and dip his head. So you can see on this play, first of all, he's quick, accurate, and violent with his hands. This initial punch has so much power. Then he clubs through the right shoulder to lower him back down and swims into the pocket. Dexter Lawrence is one of the most athletic defensive linemen in the league, but nothing on Justin Fields, obviously. Here's another swim move against Philadelphia. He's playing the 1 technique, but he's rushing at the left guard, Landon Dickerson. Dickerson's playing with outside leverage, and Jason Kelsey's picking up this blitz. So this A-gap is wide open. Dexter Lawrence clubs the inside shoulder, gets Landon Dickerson to dip his head, and then swims over the top. And then the reason that Dexter Lawrence is able to have so much success with these different pass rushing moves is because of how powerful his bull rush is. He's honestly at the level where if you have a below average left guard, leaving him one-on-one with Dexter Lawrence is coaching malpractice. Unless he's matched up with someone who has an elite anchor, Dexter Lawrence is getting 3 to 4 yards of displacement every time he uses a power rush. And then he has one of the highest motors of any defensive lineman in the NFL. So when he gets that initial push and then the blocker recovers his balance and finds his anchor, Lawrence is transitioning into another move and continuing to push the pocket, and it just becomes so much to deal with when a team's best pass rusher also plays with the highest effort. And I said you should always double team Dexter Lawrence, but that isn't guaranteed to work. He's one of the best defensive linemen in the league at defeating double teams. I like how he makes a conscious effort to separate the 2 blockers that are responsible for him. So right here he's got the center and the left guard. Instead of just power rushing down the middle and trying to force himself through this gap, he disengages from the center and explodes into a bull rush on the left guard. Now all 5 of Washington's offensive linemen are separated and on their own islands, and Dexter Lawrence has a wide open path through the inside. Plenty of NFL defensive linemen could get as much or more pressure than Dexter Lawrence does from the nose tackle position. If you just took the average 3 technique and lined him up over center every snap, he'd probably have a significant increase in pass rushing production because that speed and quickness would just overwhelm the blockers on the inside. But you would just get gashed in the run game because speed and power in the NFL almost always come at the expense of one another. An undersized defensive tackle is usually going to have an athletic advantage over offensive linemen, but that lack of size is going to cause them to get pushed back in the run game. Dexter Lawrence doesn't have that conflict. He's having one of the most productive pass rushing seasons ever for a nose tackle, but on top of that, he's been an elite run defender and really one of the only true 3-down nose tackles in the league. Just like with pass rushing, leaving him one-on-one in the run game is a recipe for disaster. Even against a guard like Zach Martin, the length and athleticism are so overwhelming. Dexter Lawrence understands right here that Zach Martin's attacking his play side shoulder. He's trying to get this left hand attached so that he can clear him out of the backside A-gap, but Dexter Lawrence maintains the hand fight throughout the play. He doesn't get reached, and he has the movement skills to keep up with the flow of the run while all that's happening, so when Zeke runs through his gap, he can disengage and make the tackle. He had a dominant matchup against Frank Ragnow. Right here, he's trying to reach him to the outside, but Dexter Lawrence is so consistent with his punch. He gets his hands inside, stacks the block, and then at that point, he can go in either direction. At the beginning of the play, it looks like he's shading over to the play side A-gap, but then he just tosses Frank Ragnow and switches sides. This is another nice job defeating a reach block. Again, he gets hands on his face mask, but Dexter Lawrence is so good at driving reach blocks backwards as he's moving laterally with the flow of the run. Right here, Jacksonville's running pin pull. Dexter Lawrence dominates the block from the moment he engages. As always, the hand placement is perfect. He moves the center into the backfield, which forces the cutback, but Dexter Lawrence is in so much control. He can flash over to this inside gap and then flash back outside and make the tackle. And then even if it's a toss or a jet sweep where the nose tackle wouldn't normally be in position to make a play, Dexter Lawrence has the range and the motor to make plays outside of his gap. Double teams will sometimes prevent Dexter Lawrence from making plays in run defense, but he's almost never getting moved back or allowing much displacement. This is a dominant play from Dexter Lawrence. The Cowboys are running duo, so he's taking on this double team from the left guard in the center, but he knows at some point the left guard's going to climb to the second level, so he just needs to sustain his position for a couple seconds and withstand that initial double team. He gets his hands inside on the center and then plants his left foot wide so that all the force this left guard's applying is being redirected into the ground. And then when the guard releases contact, Dexter Lawrence explodes off that plant foot. He's already got good hand placement established, so he flashes inside and makes the tackle. There have been a lot of defensive linemen with great seasons that absolutely deserve to be in the All-Pro conversation, but I think Dexter Lawrence should be a lock for one of those defensive line spots because he's an elite run defender and he's been as productive, if not more, than the other top defensive tackles, but he's doing it from the nose tackle position, which is almost unheard of. And so I hope the significance of what Dexter Lawrence has done this year gets recognized by the All-Pro committee. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments any players or teams that you'd like me to cover.